Among the groups standing up and voicing their condemnation is a women's support centre in the East London, although the part of the country that has not experienced xenophobic incidents directly. Executive Director of Manyane, a women's support centre, Dr. Lesley and Foster, joins me now in studio to share in their message and plans of actions against xenophobia. We're chatting to Dr. Lesley and Foster. Dr. Foster, appreciate your time. Where do you think the problem lies here?
Well, the problem is on many levels. It's political, it's economic, and it's social. And it's not just a South African problem. I mean, we have to see it in the context of the continent and the problems that we're facing in the continent. But of course, we are incredibly sad and horrified at the levels of attacks that have happened in the country here. And as women, we feel that we have a role to play because women are affected in a particular way with the killing of a man. There is a wife or a mother or a sister or a daughter who's affected by that. And we are affected economically, you know, by it, and we are affected socially as well. So it's important that women stand up. Women are also the ears and the eyes of communities. They see things happening, they hear things happening. So part of our campaign is really about having women become safety nets within communities. And so the campaign for us is not, symbolically we will have a march on the 28th of April in East London, bringing all different sectors together. So we're working with the religious sector, with the labour movement, with women's groups across the province. We're bringing in, of course, we are women and communities. You know, it's not just about, but we are taking a leadership role in this. And what we are saying is we don't want the violence, we want peace. And at the same time, we want to be able to create safety nets in the community. One of our main supporters in this is the Daily Dispatch. They will be hosting dialogues around xenophobia and racism. And I think this is an important, it's a critical discourse that we need to have to understand the drivers and to understand what the communities need to do to prevent this kind of violence from happening again. The problem with violence is that it's one form of violence today and it's another tomorrow. And we have to stop it at this very critical point right now.
I'm fascinated by why you're saying political, economic and social, because I agree with you wholeheartedly. Politically, do you think the government have done enough?
I think there's been too little too late. I think that's the big problem. And I think that we weren't aware as the state that there was this simmering resentment towards foreign nationals, and we weren't doing enough about it. I think we've had a problem with undocumented refugees coming into the country, and I think that the response to that hasn't been strong enough. But it's not unique to us. I mean, if you look at all the lives that were lost, you know, in the last few days of people trying to go into Europe, you will see that this problem is a global problem. And the problem has to be dealt with globally and continentally. And I think we're not talking enough about that. Of course, we are caught up as a country at this particular moment in what is happening here. But the spillover of this is huge because other African countries are very angry at what has happened here. There is a huge push against South Africa. There are calls for sanctions, calls for withdrawals. And this is hitting us extremely hard. So we feel that we must stand up and say we do not in any way condone this kind of violence. We uphold the human rights of everybody. And it is the state's responsibility, and this is the important thing, to respect, to ensure that everybody respects the human rights of every citizen, that those human rights are protected, they're promoted, and they're fulfilled. Those are the basic tenets of human rights globally, and we need to push for that. What we need to do is to teach communities how to do this, and to bring communities into the discourse, because politically there is one level of work that has to be done to ensure the legislation is there, to ensure due diligence standards are upheld, and that's not happening to the degree it should. So we have impunity, you know, to a very large extent in the country. But what we need to do is to teach communities how they build those safety nets and how they prevent this violence. We have to live in peace, and you know, we have a diverse community and a diverse society. So it's important for us to build those centers of support for foreign nationals. We forget how much they contribute positively to our society. With the skill shortage here, I mean, our health systems are dependent upon foreign doctors, you know, and we need the kinds of skills. We need each other. Whichever way we look at it, we need each other. And we
I'm going
must
to play
respect
devil's
that.
advocate. There are so many frustrated South Africans out there who don't have jobs. And after 21 years of democracy, they don't see things getting better for themselves. And it's just a sense of, well, I've got no other option but to be violent and to try and get rid of people who are taking my jobs. That's the reality on the ground. On the ground, you know, people can sit in Parliament and make as many decisions and discussions as they like, but on the ground, people are frustrated because they don't have jobs and they're living in poverty. They're living on the poverty line, and that's surely where the problem is. How do we alleviate that?
Yeah. The problem is much bigger than South Africa. The problem is the neoliberalism and the neoliberalist policies that there are, the macroeconomics that govern the entire world. The problem around joblessness is global. It's not a South African problem, and we need to send that message out constantly. The government is trying through various programs to get job creation going, and to some degree that has been successful. But that's why I talk about it being a political issue, is that the government needs to sit down with communities and look at ways in which we can stimulate the economy. The thing about foreign nationals is that because they've left their countries under duress, they come in with a different work ethic, I would say, and wanting and not expecting any kind of help. So they go out and they have great entrepreneurial skills. They are highly trained. That's the big difference. The isolation that South Africa has been in has hit us very hard, and we are not out of that by a long shot. It's going to take many, many years for us to correct that. We have to correct many systems. We have to correct our educational systems. We have to look at the economy in a different way and so forth. So I understand the frustration. I know that it is extremely difficult, but we also as communities have to find ways in which we create job opportunities and work opportunities. There are many of them, and there are new opportunities, exciting opportunities coming up in the country. There is still a gap between government and civil society because government has got good policies in place and has got support mechanisms in place, doesn't always reach communities. So what we do as Masimanyane Women's Support Center is bridge that gap when it comes to women. We go out into communities and we work very strongly across the country teaching women about what those opportunities are and how they can get them. We have had huge success. So it's a matter of being able to communicate what there is out there for people to do and for people to find those support systems within. So it's support systems for local communities as well as the integration of foreign nationals into those communities.
Spot on, spot on, spot on, spot on. Dr. Lesley Ann Foster chatting to us. She is running a campaign of women against xenophobia, and it's great to see people speaking out about what's happening on the ground. Dr. Foster, we're out of time. We appreciate your input, some very, very important points that you make, and hopefully we can see the end of this, and we appreciate you coming in to chat to us.
We will. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your positivity. There's plenty